What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Tribe of Runners. I'm your host, Liz Myers, and today I have a very unique, special conversation I've been waiting to have with Damien Dilcher on a lot of different type of running because you are a shorter distance style runner, but there's so many questions I have. I want you to educate the audience, tell everyone everything as much as possible. But before we get into that, thank you so much for being on the podcast and agreeing to chat with me.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. I love doing stuff like this. I love educating people. I know there's so much different types of running you could do. So the more information I can share on what I do, I think the better.
For sure, for sure. And I will say you were probably the youngest I have on my podcast, which is so cool. And you have so much wealth of knowledge. We've chatted a little bit beforehand, and I'm really excited to dive in. But before we get into everything, tell me how you got into running, when it started, when the love for it came, and how that worked out.
So I played most sports growing up, just like every child. I was always a bit faster than others. I was pretty quick on my feet. I loved football. I was okay with baseball. I loved basketball. But I didn't really get into running until about middle school, and it was more so just because I needed an after school activity. But when we were doing drills in football and baseball, I was always going the longest, running the fastest. So I guess it was always there, but I just didn't see it at the time. And then my freshman year of high school, I was playing football outside of high school and running in high school. And I got injured playing football, and a decision kind of came to where it's like, you're not really growing, but you're kind of fast. You got hurt. What do we do? And my mom kind of pushed me into running. And I mean, I'm glad she did because I was pretty successful in middle school. But in high school, it completely took off and it got me to where I am. So thanks to my mom for kind of pushing me into it and allowing me to experiment with it.
Yeah. And it's so crazy, no one wants to get injured, but you got injured playing football. And it was kind of weird blessing where it's like, hey, and with your mom's help, let's get into this running thing and see what this will do. And obviously it's been amazing for you and we'll kind of dive into that. But when you first got into being serious in running, what were you doing? Kind of explain how that all started for you.
Um, yeah, so my junior year of high school is when I started to take it pretty seriously when I thought I could have a future in running. I was still running low mileage, I would say like 30 miles a week. I was doing a lot of fast stuff, 200s, some 400s, um, shorter track work. The longer stuff didn't really start till my senior year when we really took a stab at cross country because it's 5K in America. But yeah, I was doing about 30 miles and some speed stuff, more of an 800 guy my junior year, stepped up to the mile every now and then, a little bit out of my comfort zone. And then my senior year, we started to run 50 miles a week, which was a lot for me at the time. Um, and we were doing a lot of longer work, a lot of mile repeats, K repeats, stuff like that. Going to what we call Homedale Park in New Jersey, doing hill reps because that's where state championships were. And then on the track, about 40 miles a week, still some faster stuff, long run, quote unquote, long run, 7 miles long
Hmm.
run. And we kind of shifted to the mile outdoors and 1600. I wouldn't really say the mile, but 1600. And I found a lot of success in that, running 4:11:0, made the state meet, got fifth, I believe, that year in my state meet, and then doubled back and got, I think, fifth again in the 800 about an hour and a half later. So it was a lot of low mileage stuff in high school, a lot of shorter stuff, just kind of allowing the talent to be talent and not really overwork going into college. Obviously, as more potential was to be tapped.
Hmm.
Um, and then going into college, it was immediate 60 miles a week. Struggled with that a bit. And then towards the end, I was running consistently 80s per week, 85, which is a lot for me.
Hmm.
And I think that aerobic fitness really paid off and allowed me to utilize my speed. And then now as a professional, I run about 75 through 7. We do train on a 9-day cycle. So we try to be about 105 to 110 through 9. So about 75 to 80 through 7 on a good week where there's no racing.
Hmm. Hmm. No, that's incredible. And I will say, when we're talking, and I know I prepped you, I warned you, I talk to a lot of ultra runners. So instantly I hear you saying things. I'm like, no, 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 don't downplay the work that you're doing. We ultra runners think you're insane with the speed and the effort that you're putting in because, we eat snacks and we run, easy efforts as long as possible. And you are sprinting probably way more than I care to ever say that I would want to sprint. But kind of go back into college, high school, you were prepping, getting things ready, things started to work out. You're like, holy crap, I'm pretty good at this. The mileage started to come in. I'm sure like just learning how to be a better runner came into play. And then how did college really prepare you and prep you for becoming professional?
Great question. Yeah. On a training, on the aspects of training, I was training at a higher level. I was doing a 16-mile long run, in which towards the second half of it, I got going down to 6 minute pace. We were doing tempos on Fridays, getting up to 8 miles at 5:20 to 5:15. Track work on Tuesdays on track season, hill work, cross country and indoor. So I was just training at a higher level, and I was feeling fit, feeling good, knowing I could keep giving more and more, but kind of staying in those zones to where it's like you want to be able to give more, you know you can, but you don't obviously want to push everything. But I would say it was the racing that really showed me I could do it at the next level because it was just a buildup. Like I wasn't as successful as I was in high school right away. It took a while to kind of get there and get back to what I was running in high school. But once I did, I just like the doors opened and I just blew right through them my junior year. I ran 3:41 for the 1500. I made regionals for the second time and actually kind of competed and made the final of regionals, but I unfortunately got knocked out. But the experience was necessary because then fast forward, I run 3:39, 3:38 in the region to qualify, and then I'm fifth at NCAs racing guys like Ethan Strand, who's made a US team, Nathan Green, Luke Hauser, like just beating really big names and proving to myself and to others that I was capable of doing it at a high level. And that was kind of my breakout onto the scene run. I'd closed my last 800 and 150, had run 340 for 1500, and then I got a bit banged up, so I didn't get to race the US trials or take a stab in the US trials, which really hurt because I felt like I was so primed in racing. I just had that collegiate fitness, that collegiate sharpness. I
Hmm.
was racing for a long time. So I took a little bit of time, and then the end of the summer, I had raced my first professional race unattached, unsigned, and I had won in 3:55, so a big mile PB, 4 seconds. But we were out kind of slow, and I just trusted what I knew. I sat in, I moved up the race, worked the field, and then just closed in like 55 to win it. And that's when I was in touch with Corey Leslie of the Under Armour group, but that's when we kind of like hit it off and we were like, hey, we both have something we want out of this. Like, let's work together. So I would say in terms of college, it was more so the racing that allowed me to really grasp like, hey, you could do this at the next level if you just really put your best foot forward.
Yeah, incredible. And you haven't really mentioned it, but obviously you're doing all the things because you are now a professional runner. Like you have all the things, you've done all the things, and that's not just through like the training, that's just through like your dedication and your desire, your effort, your determination to do it, which says so much because honestly when I was your age, like not a single thought in my mind was going through with life like that. So I think it's incredible the things that you're doing and how far you've come already. Like you're not new in this sport by any means, but you're still fresh, you know what I mean, and you have, I'm sure, so much to learn and grow, which is so amazing. And I want you to kind of explain a little bit. So for a lot of us that don't know too much about, say, the shorter distances and the mile times and the 800 and all that, um, explain what your best efforts are. And I know you mentioned like some of the people that you were running against. Huge congratulations on beating them, by the way.
Thank you.
But like kind of maybe dumb that down for a little bit for people like ultra runners that don't know too much of the shorter distances.
For sure. So some of my best efforts personally for the mile, I've run 3:54. For the 1500, which is just 100 meters shorter, I've run 3:38, about equivalent to 3:54. So they go hand in hand.
Very
For the
cool.
3000-meter race, I've run 7:40. And for 5000 meters, I've run 13:36.
Okay.
Um, so still a lot of room to grow. And some of the guys that I've mentioned, like Ethan Strand, um, he's run 3:48 for the full mile, and 7:30 for 3000 meters. So he's kind of like, one of the pinnacles of American distance running, and he is also so young. So a guy like him is really at the top. 3:48 is one of the best times in the world that you can run. There's only a handful that have done it faster, and those guys you're talking like Olympic
Mm.
champions. So um, yeah, those are some of my best efforts. The 800 meters, still have some work to do. I've run 151. I have a bad relationship with the 800 meters. Um, but yeah, so yeah, 354, 740, and 1336.
Yeah, incredible. And it's so
Thank you.
funny. I did the 4x4 in high school, and I couldn't tell you my time. I was running 100 meters. And I remember hating every single step that I had to take. I was always like forced to do it because I did high jump and like they didn't have a runner. I was in sports, so they're like, "Oh, come on, you can do this." And I'm like, "Ugh." So,
Yes.
hands down, I think it's awesome, and it is an incredible thing that you do. And I appreciate you explaining it because a lot of us prior hearing you and being like, "Oh my gosh, like how fast was your mile?" So hugely, hugely incredible effort. Now let's get into a little specific things. I would love to hear like a specific workout that you actually enjoy that is like speed driven, like what type of workouts you're doing to become better, just to show kind of like a different aspect of training. Cause I'm sure your training looks a heck of a lot different than my training, but all for good reasons, of course.
Um, yeah, so at Under Armour here, we have a couple different kinds of training that we do just depending on the year. So when we're building, we do two double threshold sessions a week. So that means twice a week we do two sessions on the same day. So what that would look like is in the morning, we would do 5 to 6 by 1 mile at 5 minutes down to 455 per mile, off about 60 to 75 seconds per rest. That can vary based on what we're doing, how we're feeling. What the weather's like, honestly. But we try to keep that one pretty controlled, pretty relaxed. We might get to a flat part, we might get a couple hills in there. And then for the PM, 6 hours later, we would typically do 10 by 1000 meter in about 255 to 3 minutes. In terms of mile pace, that's like maybe 430s, maybe a little faster. I'm not sure. I'm not good with the Ks to mile conversion. So that would be like a standard like volume day, not so much speed. But when you're talking more of speed, we'll do like hill sessions where we do sets of 600 meter, 600 meter, 400-meter hill, and there's no real pace on those. It's more of effort. So we'll kind of look at the mile effort for the time and we'll try to work 10K to 5K effort. Again, that could vary based on how we're feeling, whether surface is slippery or not. Um, for speed, when we're tapping into a little bit of speed, we might do like 20 by 400, 68 down to maybe 66, depending. There are some workouts where we really get going. We kind of just did one where we were doing alternating reps. So it was like threshold 1000 meters. So it was just steady. But then we did like 800s, 400s, a couple 1Ks, and they were all really quick. I don't remember the splits exactly, but that would be like kind of a speed day. Or if we're doing 300-meter reps off short rest, that would be kind of speed. Um, we don't really rip workouts too much. We have speed development days with the
Mhm.
coach, so we get a lot of speed from doing like 150s, strides. We put a lot of trust into that, and it seemed to pay off. Um, so it just depends the time of year. We kind of do a session like I did today before we met. We call it hype. It's our 3 days out workout before a race. So that's kind of a touch of aerobic fitness and a touch of speed. So we'll do 4 by 800 meters and it's cut down by 2 seconds. So we'll start at 224 per 800, so 448 mile pace. And we'll work down to 224, 220, 224, 222, 220, 218. We'll do a 400 kind of quicker, just to get the legs spinning, but then we'll do 300s mile pace to faster. So for me, that looks like 43 to 41.
Mm.
And we'll do four of those. So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Um, the workouts, like I said, they vary, things change. But that would kind of be a standard set of workouts we do.
Very cool, very cool. And it is a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people are hearing and being like, "I don't know what he just said." But it's, like a lot of ultra runners or even like your average type runner, they're doing more of like effort or heart rate. And with you, like how does that work with training? Obviously, like you're very pace specific because you guys are dialed in, doing all the things, but like do you really focus on effort more or less?
Oh yeah, for sure. So a couple times a year we'll do so far, I mean, I can't say a couple times a year. I've only done it once, but we did a lactate workout where we did 800s pretty hard, like really slowed for us to like really hard. So we worked from like 3 minutes and 20 seconds down to sub 2 minutes,
Mm.
and we pricked our finger each one, and we got lactate measures on that so that we could get heart rate zones, so we don't have to prick every workout. So we do try to stay within a heart rate zone.
Mhm.
Again, that could like wind could jump your heart rate by 10, but we do have a number. For me, it's about 173. I try not to get too far over 173 to 175 average heart rate per workouts.
Okay.
Um, for easy runs, I don't monitor it too much, but I notice like I try not to go over 130 to 135. That's usually about 7 minutes to 7 minutes, 15 seconds per mile. If I'm feeling good, it might be in the 630s or 640s, 650s. Um, but we will prick fingers and do lactate testing every now and then, but we do have like a general heart rate guideline that we try to follow. Um, we don't stay super religious to it. Again, things play into it, but if we're working pretty hard and we're getting into the 180s, Coach Corey will usually pull the plug or shorten stuff or give us longer rest just to try to bring that number back down. Um, so yeah, that's a good question. We do, for the most part, follow a pretty specific heart rate guideline.
Yeah, yeah. And that makes sense. I mean, I assumed you would do everything and anything just to make sure you guys are dialed in as much as possible. But like you said, some days it's going to be the environment outside. Like you were literally just telling me you guys had to travel and go train somewhere else because the weather was so bad where you're currently at, which is so crazy. Um, but yeah, that it's super cool. Have you noticed going so much as like college to professional, like how much of a change in life has that been for you with running? Obviously, I'm sure it's a huge change in that whole aspect, but like in the sense of running specific.
Um, yeah, it was a big change. In college, I feel like there was so much other stuff to focus on to kind of take your mind off running. And like sometimes you need that mental break from running. Like you can't always be switched on. You got to have those moments where you're switched off and just kind of being a person. Like I heard once you'll burn out mentally before you burn out physically. And I really buy into that. Um, so I think one of the biggest adjustments I've had is like so far running is all I have to focus on. And I try to fill my days with stuff, but like, if I'm trying to, prepare to race at the highest level, there's not much I can do. Like I can't go play basketball or go, play tag with my friends. It's just kind of like you lay around and you recover and you stretch and you watch YouTube or videos or, you just try to fill out your day the best you can. It's different not having class or my teammates around like living with me all the time, to take my mind off things. I do hang out with my teammates here, but like we're always traveling for different things, so it gets kind of tough. So like I have my girlfriend, but she works, so it's like I'm kind of switched on in running mode until she gets home at 5, and then I can finally like debrief and take my mind off things when we're just chatting. Yeah, I mean, it's just like college. There was just so much going on with like homework and schoolwork and classes and all that good stuff, and it's just so much different with the pro life. And in a good way, I'm glad I get to put all my effort into this. But when you race one bad race, you can't escape it. It's just you think back and you're like, oh, I could have done all these things differently, and then the next day you're thinking about it again, and it's hard to forget. So it's been a learning curve, and I'm still learning, um, and just kind of looking for some pretty low intense activities I could do in my free time.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. You have to very much be cautious and just pay attention to everyday living because your legs are super important to you, So, like, if you rolled an ankle skateboarding, as you mentioned, what I mean? Like, that would be horrible. And I can only imagine. Um, oh, that's so crazy. So, outside of that, like, life, obviously, it's all day, every day running. Have you noticed any, like, I have to run today yet? Or is it still like a passion, a love? How's that been for you?
Um, yeah, I mean, I love running. It's my first love, but there are definitely days where I wake up and I'm like really sore from lift or speed dev, and I'm like, man, a day off sounds so good. And it might take me a few hours to get going. Like I know I'm gonna do it, but it's just like kind of getting up, having a coffee, and watching a video, and then I'm kind of like, oh yeah, you know what? Let's go for that run. It gets a little tougher when the weather gets colder, like I was saying, when it was pretty much single digits Fahrenheit here, it was pretty tough to get out the door and going. But my coach does a good job at like having practice at a certain time and get me out the door, even if I'm the only one in the area. Um, and I'm always happier after I run. But yeah, there are definitely some days where I wake up and I'm like, man, like, this bed is just too comfortable right now. Um, I find myself to be more of an afternoon runner, you know?
Yeah, makes sense. And it's so funny. I always like to ask people that because I feel like we as runners, no matter if it's something we do professionally or something, it's just for fun or however it is, everyone thinks we always want to like jump out of bed and go run right away. And it's like maybe once in a while, but
Yeah.
and it's like you said, we drag our feet a little bit. We finally get out there within, the warm up period. Then you're kind of like, oh yeah, I like this. This is great. And
Yeah.
then you get your run in, and then when you're done, you're such a happier person. But it takes a hot minute to get there.
Yeah, yeah. It takes a second. You know, you gotta let the legs wake up, have your coffee. You know, watch a little video, get some music going. It takes a little bit of time, but yeah, it doesn't really matter the level you're on. Like every runner I know goes through it, no
Oh yeah.
matter what they say. And it's funny because like when you get injured, it's like, oh, I take it for granted. Like I can't be like that. And then you get healthy, and like a month later, it's like you're right back to it. You know?
Oh yeah, it is the craziest thing. I literally just came out of an injury, and before that, not like I was just kind of like, man, I have to run,
Yeah.
this, and then I get injured, and I'm like, oh, I just want to run so bad. And my
Yep.
partner's genuinely like, you're insane. I'm like, yeah, like I know, it's just I can't do it now, and I want to do it. But yeah, it is so true, and we all go through it. But you kind of mentioned this, and I want to talk. You're obviously now a professional, and you have a coach telling you what to do and all of that good stuff. So how has having a coach been? I like know obviously when you were in high school and college, like you had a coach, but I'm sure it was like a little different because it was college. These, coaches now, like you work with Under Armour. Kind of explain how all of that is.
It's great. I think I was a little bit blessed in college to have Joe Pienta. I think he's a guru of the sport. I really believed in him and trusted him, and he got me where I wanted to be. And then coming over to Baltimore and being with Corey was so different because we trained so different. But again, just another guy that like really knows what he's talking about. And like if you ask him questions, he'll get really in depth and explain to you why this works or why we do this. And that's what helps me trust the process is understanding what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. When I was younger, I would love to pointlessly follow, but now that I've gotten a little bit older and more experienced in the sport, I love to know why things work and what they're designed to do and help. And my Iona coach Joe really helped me explore that part of myself, and Corey has really helped me take off with it because it's such a different training style. But having Corey's been great. I think Corey's got a really good grasp on the sport. He was a professional himself. He was second at USA's a couple of times. Um, he he just like has a really good understanding for the sport, and he's just like one of those guys that you could tell was a good runner and has a lot of knowledge for it. So whatever he tells me to do, I do it. He's usually pretty good about explaining it. He doesn't really like when we get going in workouts, and he's pretty vocal about that, but he lets us go sometimes. So all power to him, more with being vocal. Um, and yeah, especially with the 9 day cycle, training on 9 rather than 7 days was a bit of an adjustment, but he really walked me through it when I was signing and talked to me how it would be and told me we were going to take our time getting into double threshold and things we were going to do. So we kind of had a stretched out plan when I first signed. He's also signed with Under Armour, so he's not. It's hard to explain. So Under Armour hired him as a coach for the team they started.
Mm-hmm.
So like we both pretty much work for Under Armour, but I consider Corey my boss, and more so as Under Armour as like the hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean Under Armour's also been great. There's a lot of people invested and involved with our running. They come to a lot of races. They send us a lot of cool stuff that we get to wear and try out, and I've felt blessed to be a part of the team because we've had a lot of interactions with shoe developers about shoes coming out, and what we think it could be improved upon and what we would like to see. So that's been awesome, and it's been a great process to be a part of. Because people always talk about like when they get the shoes, they love them, and I'm like, yes, like we talked to them about that. So it's been awesome. Under Armour and Corey have taken great care of me, and have really helped me expand my knowledge for the sport at this level.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I have to go back a little bit and say, you mentioned like Corey explains everything to you, and same with your other coach. So both coaches amazing. But I always tell people like if you have a coach that will take the time to explain things to you, that coach cares. And that coach caring is going to make a hell of a difference compared to someone just, dictating you, telling you what to do, telling you not to question it. So, I love that you've always had that experience with coaches helping you and encouraging you to understand the why behind things, because a lot of times, like you mentioned, you went from one coach to a different coach and they had different styles. And so I can only imagine like the panic of the nervous system being like, hey, we don't do this, this is new, what's going on. And so it's really cool that you got to experience that.
Yeah, it was awesome. They've been great. And yeah, I mean, when I first came here and did my first double T workout, having never done 2 sessions in a day, I remember leaving for the second one and warming up and getting going, and my body was like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? I'm like, we just kind of did this not too long ago. Um, but yeah, it's been great. Definitely been blessed. So I owe a lot to those guys for kind of helping me and helping me understand.
Yeah, that's incredible. And, it's a coach, no matter what, will truly make a runner a better person or a worse person. You know what I mean? Like it's the honest truth. You could have a phenomenal runner, but if that coach isn't great, then obviously it's not going to be that great. But you have an amazing coach. You've had great ones. You still have a great one as now, and that's incredible. So how long have you been with Under Armour, and like what do you foresee with the future going with them?
Um, I've been with Under Armour since October of 2024. I moved here, so just over a full year, going on a year and a half. We have agreed to work together for another year. I would love to continue to work with Under Armour and for Under Armour. I don't think it gets much better than the setup I have now. With we do altitude camps, but we have the headquarters right down the street with our own track, our own gym. We do a lot of community stuff here, which is awesome. Um, Treadmills for days when it's like 6 degrees.
Yeah.
Um, and I've also just kind of started to build my life here. Obviously, finding my girlfriend here in Baltimore, I've really been embracing the city and the lifestyle of the city, and it's close to home for me, being from New Jersey. So, for as long as Under Armour wants to work with me, I'll want to work with them. And I'm sure there's always a situation where we can work it out together. Um, but for now, yeah, we're working together. We have our eyes set on hopefully the Olympics, getting there, getting to the Olympic trials and giving those guys a stab and doing with what one of the Under Armour guys did last year and winning the trials, the World Championship trials.
Mhm.
So just kind of keeping the ball rolling with that stuff.
Very cool. So, just to maybe explain this a little for some, like I myself have no clue too. So, what does it look like for you in the sense of training when you're going for something like the Olympic trials?
For sure. So the most recent one we had was the USA Outdoor Trials, which I got banged up, so I had to miss out for the second time. But what training would look like for that is, the work in terms of aerobic fitness is pretty much done. The base is built. You had all of fall worked through indoor. So it's really just knocking on the door of some faster stuff, some race pace stuff. Still touching the tempo work. You always want to freshen up the aerobic system.
Mhm.
It would be like threshold work in the morning, or if we're doing one session, some threshold to start, maybe a little bit of threshold to close out. But yeah, really kind of hitting home with some shorter, faster stuff, shorter workouts, more rest, allow the body to be able to recover and process that lactic acid. But you could even tap on the side of shorter rest and allow the body to learn how to flush out that lactic acid when you're going fast. Because when you're racing really hard and you're racing the top guys who, are at the highest of the highest level, your body has to be able to adapt to those situations. So, training like that would just be like a little bit less mileage. Um, Workouts might be a little less mileage, but a little more intense with some more rest. And like even weights, when we do lift, we would lift a little less in terms of weight, still getting the motion in because you don't want to completely give that up. Your body still loves it. So more body weight stuff, lighter weight stuff. So pretty much everything just kind of zones down a bit in terms of volume and intensity of volume, but more you want to get specific work
Mhm.
um, for whatever distance you're doing. I know it changes per distance. So what the 800 team might do is way different than what I do, and someone training for a 5K might be way different than the 15. So, but the general idea is pretty much the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. You're getting specifics for whatever you're about to go do, no matter like, if it's what you do or the 800 or the 5K. And then I'm so sorry to hear about the recent race that you had to miss. But what is
Okay.
next for you? What's the big plan? Well, I know what the
Um,
big plan is, but so what's maybe the little plan to the big plan?
so it's a USA Indoor World Championship trials this year because World Championships are just around the corner in March. So there is a trials for that, but you have to qualify. And I've had a little bit of a rough go, so I haven't quite gotten the qualifier yet. But this weekend we're gonna go over to Ocean Breeze and we're gonna run a 1500 and try to get the qualifier to be able to show up at the trials and try to race for a spot on the USA team. So that's kind of my big picture plan right now, short term big picture. So we'll see what happens on Saturday, but I'm feeling pretty good and I trust myself right now. So hopefully get the qualifier and then make a stab at Indoor Championships. But after that, the focus just shifts onto outdoor and running some pretty fast times and winning some races. And I'm not sure if there's a road championships. So usually every other year they do a road 1 mile championships, and there is a trials for that. So last year I was fifth in a really close race, and they ended up not having the road championships. So there might be a world championships for that this year.
Okay.
Um, so that would be my next kind of big goal if that's a thing. But I'm not sure. I have to actually ask Corey. But just racing.
Yeah.
Getting ready for seasons to come.
Yeah, yeah, very, very cool. And maybe explain to us a little about like indoor, outdoor, like road. You've mentioned like road compared to indoor. Um, do you prefer one over the other?
Um, they're so different, even though you're running like the
Yeah.
same. So indoor is like a 200-meter track rather than the outdoor 400. So there's double the laps per event. Indoors is always fun. It's just a fun time of year. You never know where everyone's fitness is because we're coming off the fall base. Some guys are super fit, some guys take some time to get into it. But the atmosphere of indoor running is just unreal because it's an indoor facility. Everyone screams and it echoes and it sounds like there's triple the people.
Mhm.
You can't really beat coming down the home stretch of an indoor race of a close race. But I do love outdoors more. I feel like outdoors is a more of the important season. More things happen outdoors. The racing is better. The more people show up to outdoor racing, you see a trend with a lot of really, really good athletes maybe train through the indoor season just because it's so short. It's only like a few months long, opposed to outdoor being so long. Could
Mhm.
go anywhere from March to like September in some years. Indoor typically lasts from like mid-December to early March. So you have a small window for racing. Um, so yeah, like a lot of big athletes will kind of just use indoor as a training block and race here and there. But then really, really get going outdoors. So outdoors is fun because like you're getting the best from everybody at the best possible meets and you could just travel a little bit more. There's only a few good indoor facilities that we'll travel to. Most of them are pretty local. We'll go to Boston for the indoor tracks or to New York. We go other places here and there, but outdoors, you're kind of traveling all over. You could end up in Europe for a couple months, go west, go to, California. So um, it's just a cool experience as well as what I feel like could be a little bit better racing.
Very cool. And question maybe is do you so like if you find a race that you're going to race and it's potentially in a different state, do you go to that state and like train there to be like in maybe if it's an altitude or something of that nature, or how's all that work?
Yeah, so we don't really race at altitude that much,
Okay.
but for all races, we typically go down a few days before just to be able to be there, do our pre-meet stuff on the track the day before. But we will go up to altitude for a camp. We'll stay for about almost 2 months and then we'll go down to different places to race. Um, so like in the middle of altitude camp, if things are going really well and we find a race, we might go down and then come back up. It really just depends, but yeah, I've never raced at altitude, thankfully. I've heard horror stories, so hopefully I get to avoid it for as long as possible. I'm sure it's lurking somewhere in the future. Um, but yeah, we like for this weekend, I'll leave tomorrow for a race on Saturday, even though it's not that far away, just to kind of be there, get into the mindset, start my visualization of the race and kind of just be in the area, get to the track and stuff. the further away the race is, the longer out we'll leave for it. Um, so for USA's last year, we indoors, it was pretty much a few states away. It was the same place I'm going this weekend, but we left like 5 days before just to kind of be there and get ready to go. Um, but for a race in California with like the time difference, I might leave a week before.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Well, I really hope you never have to train at altitude. It's a whole different ball or like race. I know you mentioned you train there, but that's really cool that they take the time to like get you out there a little early. Like you said, the visualization I'm sure is huge. So like just getting out of your normal life, normal life, quote unquote, and then going into that race environment, being around the people. I'm sure, like you mentioned, you do some track stuff or like prep work, but just making sure everything's done, taking care of your mind is calm, but also you're prepping yourself mentally for what you're about to go through.
Yeah. I mean, you hit it right there. Like just kind of taking yourself out of the normal everyday and putting yourself in a situation where it's like, it's time to lock in, mentally zone in on what you're about to do. And, if you go into a race like pretty mentally laxed, you could find yourself a little too relaxed on the line. So, like going back to a point I made earlier where it's like you don't want to be switched on all the time. There are times and places for it. And it's like a few days out from a race is when you kind of want to start that process of flipping the switch and doing everything you can so that when you step on the line, all the boxes are checked and you did everything you possibly could to have a good day. And if you're thinking about it and you realize you left a box unchecked, it's really easy to kind of get a little flustered. So, yeah, especially since this is all I do, I try to make sure that I do everything I possibly can going into race day to know that I'm 100% ready to go.
And that is so important. I think a lot of people underestimate how much mental can really make or break you. And, ultra running is a whole different beast because we can get into multi day events where you're mentally gone and you're just trying to struggle and get through. And for you, I'm sure it's way different because you have all of that prep for this quick race that you're going to go do. Where us, like, yes, don't get me wrong, we still have the mental before, but it really gets mental during races for us. But I love that you're taking the time to mentally check all those boxes because, well, you do this in the sense of like you're doing everything to prepare yourself, which is amazing. All the things are done, you're doing them all, and then you go through that like final little checklist to give you that last check of like I'm good, I did all the things. But what would you say is like your biggest and or best mental tool that you use for prepping and or being in a race?
Um, it's a good question. I kind of like to look back at my running logs. I think if I did everything I was supposed to do, I should be confident in what I'm capable of doing. And like, if I had a day where, I wasn't feeling good and I did a little bit less, that kind of throws me off because I get very superstitious in what I'm doing. Like my pre-race meals are exactly the same. The things I do on race day are exactly the same. Um, but if I'm confident in what I did, I will be confident on the line. So I like to look back. I like to track my sleep, make sure I'm getting good sleep, make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in terms of sleep. Um, and another thing is, I like, I kind of, I know I shouldn't do this, but I like to kind of gear check the day before the race when I'm doing my pre-race strides. Um, Maybe I'll go push it a little bit just to kind of see what's there. But I try not to do that too much because I don't want to exert myself too much. But like if I do one rep and it's like a little fast, I'm like, oh yeah, like the legs are feeling so good. Now let's chill back out and save that stuff for tomorrow. But the issue with that I found is if it doesn't go exactly how it's supposed to or how I think it's gonna, I get in my head and I'm like, oh, the legs are heavy. I wonder if they'll be heavy tomorrow. To where it's like it could just be nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I've tried to find different things to look at to kind of make myself comfortable for race day. And what I found is just kind of looking back at my training, my workouts that I've done leading up to this, my hype workout like I did today. I trust what Corey says. If Corey says you're ready to go, I could tell you're ready to go. I'm like, well, he is getting paid to know this stuff, so he knows I should take his word for it because he watches me work out. And then another thing is my teammates. My teammates run really well. My teammate just ran 3 minutes and 50 seconds for the mile not too long ago. So we train the exact same. We do everything pretty much together. So in my head, I saw him do it. So in my mind, I'm capable of doing it. I just got to put the pieces together. So I really use my teammates as a source of validity because like I said, we do everything together. So it's just kind of like we go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I love that you have the team there for that aspect. I'm sure it's so cool in the sense of like not even for the moral support because I'm sure they're there cheering you on and or they, tell you, dude, I know you're going to do this, you're going to do amazing, but you also can see what they're doing and be like, I if I get all of my ducks in a row, I'm going to be very similar and do great things as well, which is super cool.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I love having the team. I was a little nervous leaving college that I wasn't going to be a part of a team, but found myself right at home here with the team. And I mean, I wouldn't run it any other way. I love training with the team. Team environment makes runs better, makes hard workouts better, makes hard days better. So just having the guys have a similar sense of humor, similar style of life has been awesome. So I mean, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Very cool, very cool. That's awesome. So I have a weird question. You're gonna kind of laugh at this, but ultra running is really, really, really known for like the community aspect. We're always there to support and encourage everyone. It's very laid back. Don't get me wrong. There's competitiveness in races as well, but is it very competitive with the distances that you're doing? Is everyone very friendly? How's that kind of work?
Yeah, everyone is super friendly. Obviously, on race day when you're on the line, it's, you're out for everyone, but there's
Yeah,
never any bad blood. I think for the most part, I'm friends with everyone that I'll be competing against.
very cool.
Before and after, we're always chatting. We talk on Instagram. I actually had a really good chat with an Under Armour athlete from Arizona. His name is Vince Ciotti. He's one of the best in the world. And he was kind of walking me through some mental battles that I was going through with running because I wasn't running well. And he's someone I'll race. And
Mhm.
the running community at this level is also just so supportive, and everyone wants to see everyone running well. And if you're having a really good race, they'll DM you and say, "Hey, dude, that was sick, good race, congrats." They'll never like put you down for beating them or doing something they haven't done. So yeah, yeah, very very similar to the ultra scene. Everyone is super friendly, super supportive. But yeah, when you step on the line, it's kind of like you're out for blood. It doesn't matter how good of friends you are. Everyone
Yeah.
wants the same thing out of that. But outside of that, yeah, everyone's. I mean, I brought my girlfriend to my last race, and she had never met any of these guys, and these guys are all chatting, talking to her like they've known her for forever. So yeah, it's a beautiful community to be a part of, honestly.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm glad to hear because we always like harp on marathon runners. They're not the nicest. Everyone is nice, don't get me wrong. We're just talking shit. But it is so cool to know at such a different aspect of running, people are still as I feel like all runners, we're just really cool people, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah,
it is really, really awesome. And to know that like no matter what, it is strictly business when you get on that start line. It's completely understandable. I wouldn't want that any other way, but it's really nice to know that when you're done or before or whatever the case may be, you guys could sit and chill, have a good talk and support and encourage each other, which is awesome.
yeah. I think one of the other things I found so amazing too at the pro level is so the Olympic champion was at the most recent race I was at. His name is Cole Hawker. He won the Olympics in the 1500 meters. So he's an American. And there was so many kids like lined up on the fence, like, and I could hear them. They're like, "Oh, should I go over and talk to Cole Hawker or all these other guys?" And I was just like, "Oh, dude, they'll talk to you. Go over there and get an autograph." And like, it's like the top runners are just so down to earth, and they're so always available for a conversation and to answer your questions or sign something. To whereas, like, I found in other sports that I watch, like the top athletes can be, and granted, they're probably getting so much more media attention everywhere they go, but like they can kind of be a little dismissive of the younger generation of athlete, which to me that's important because we're here to inspire the younger generation of athlete. We want the sport to continue to grow and elevate, and you can't do that without a younger generation looking up to what you're doing. So seeing all these guys take the time to take pictures and sign stuff and answer questions, I mean, you made that kid's year. Like he's just getting into running, and he got the opportunity to get his hat signed by the Olympic champ and answer a question. Like that's something he'll hang on to through all of his running career. So that's another great thing that I've really found in this sport is I've never seen a great runner turn down a fan of any age for any reason. And I hope that's like a trend that continues.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it's very similar with ultra running and like I think we all say this is like when and in what other sports do you toe the line with people that are elites? You know what I mean? So like football, you know what I mean? Like if you're a quote unquote average runner or average football player, you're not playing football with, some professionals. And I know what you're doing is a little bit different, but for us, even like marathoners, like you have people that are average, and then you're going up against the elites. Mind you, you might see them for a hair of a second, but they're the nicest people in the world. They will
Yeah.
sit, they'll talk to you, they'll take pictures. I've ran up to people that I follow and have admired in the sport and just been like, hey, can I get a picture and tell me a little bit about yourself? You know what I mean? Like it is crazy. And I feel like it's only in running. You know what I mean? I know it's not, but I feel like we as runners, it's a little more specific, which is really cool. But you you mentioned this, and I think it's so true. But we should all want to inspire young kids to do something like this. You know, whether it's playing a sport or running, because with this day and age, it's all technologically
Yeah.
driven. And you know, like I have a kid, and I hate to say this, but he is very much a phone kid. He loves his phone, and I'm like, dude, go outside and rub some dirt in your face or something, you know. And
Yeah.
it's things like that, like with someone just taking the simple time to sign a hat, chat a little bit, that will make that kid get outside and run a heck of a lot more compared to if they like kind of snuffed them off or anything of that nature.
But yeah, you're not scaring them off. I mean, one bad experience with a high level athlete, and you kind of associate all of them to it. So, I mean, I definitely don't get as many people as Cole Hawker does, but any opportunity I have to talk to someone from high school or someone that's committing to the college I went to, I try to talk to them for as long as possible and give them my socials for any questions, just because, yeah, I mean, you want to keep growing the sport. You don't want to deter people from loving what you love about the sport. You want them to love the same thing and have the same passion. So any way that that can be done, I feel like it should be done. And I feel like when you're a professional athlete, like that's kind of a given with the sport when you're getting paid to do this is like, you do kind of have to give into the fan base and give back to the fan base that is so supportive of you. And it like kind of breaks my heart when athletes are getting supported by fans and then not so much supporting the fans back. I'm a big believer in, giving back to the community. And here at Under Armour, we do stuff with the community on Tuesdays when the weather's nice, Track Tuesday, and
Very cool.
we'll have questions and we'll do workouts with them and like guide them through workouts and we'll go to their races and it's just good and it's great and it builds a great relationship between the community and us and it just makes the bond with the running community even stronger, honestly.
Oh, I agree 100%. And that's really cool that Under Armour does that. And, you know, it just goes to show you as a runner, too. Like, you are very passionate about the sport, period. And you also care about people getting into it. You know what I mean? You care about the fans. You want them to be educated and just, in a sense, touched where they can feel like, hey, this guy who is a professional runner is taking the time to talk to me. Like, how freaking cool is this? And I can only wait to see what you get into and how your life portrays. You have so much time, and I'm sure you're going to do amazing things out there. What would you say, briefly, if possible, is like the big, I would say, next 4 year goal for you? You know, is it a specific race? Is it doing something specific? You know, what does that look like?
I'll say it will be the Olympic trials in 2028. I think everything I do from now to then is a build up and a learning experience, no matter how good it goes or bad it goes. You can always learn. So just really, really, really getting ready to give the best guys a shot and try to make a US team, and try to represent our country at the highest race and achieve my lifelong dream in running to be an Olympian. So from today to then, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I'm in a position to give it my best go and see what happens. And when I walk away, as long as I know I did everything I could and gave it my best shot, then I'll be pretty satisfied. But hopefully in 2028, I'll be wearing USA across the chest.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will. I cannot wait to follow along, and we will share as much as possible. What before I let you go, what is one thing that you would want to say to any new runner getting into, say, you know, ambitions to be an Olympian, anything of that nature? Maybe they just want to get into running and they're interested, you know, someone more of the shorter distances. What's something you would tell them?
Um, I would tell them what I would tell any runner, ultra all the way down to 100 meters. Trust it. You gotta trust it. I think one thing I find is so many people constantly switch their training or or like switch coaches because they don't trust it. But like running is something of consistency,
Mm.
and you need to stack the weeks, and as people say, stack the bricks. And you can't build a house with one layer of bricks. You need those weeks. You're going to have bad weeks, you're going to have great weeks, you're going to have bad races, you're going to have great races. But the one thing and one mistake I see is people change things because they don't trust it. So I would say trust the process. Understand things are going to go great and bad, and don't give up on it, because if you don't give up on it, when it clicks, it's going to click and you're going to explode in a very good way.
Yeah.
And you're going to run things that you didn't even think were possible. It's happened to me. I have firsthand experience. I've seen it happen to others. So um, trust it, and just don't give up on yourself no matter how it's going.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree 1,000,000%. Trusting it is so important, but also like you mentioned within that trust is the trust is consistency. You know, consistency is so important. I feel like we all get into this sport and we run a little bit and we're like, I remember my first mile was horrible. I'm like, I'm never going to do this again. And then I go run another mile and I'm like, well, like that wasn't so bad. And, now I go out for runs and I'm like, yeah, I just went for like an easy, quick run. And then I realized like I just ran for 2 or 3 hours. Like what? Like that's easy, quick in my mind now. And it used to be like I ran a mile, so like that consistency has built me as a better runner, which is so important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just trust it. I mean,
Yep.
you ask any runner how they got great, it's they didn't give up on the process, and they stacked the weeks and just did what they had to do, no matter how it felt. So, and I can't imagine what it's like for ultra. I have a friend who runs ultras. He's actually a PT. His name is Chris Adrick. And like I'll see on Strava sometimes the things he does, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, dude, I just did that through 4 days, and you just
Yeah.
did it in one morning. So all power to you guys. That's like honestly, ultras are some of the most impressive things. I could never do them. I think I'm too mentally weak. So yeah, you guys are super impressive.
Well, and it's funny you say like you can't believe you can do the ultras. It's I cannot believe you can run that fast. Like I couldn't even fathom the idea of running as fast as you do. Like my legs hurt just thinking about it. And it's funny because like I'm like in my mind I'm like I get to eat snacks, I get to run, I can power hike, walk if I want to, like that's ultra running. And then there's you who, so fast that I can't even imagine. So your heart is way different than my heart.
Well, thank you. But your heart is way different than mine, because I can't imagine the 3 hour runs. I do a 90-minute long run, and I'm like honing it in at 80 minutes with 10 to go. I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go lay down and go to bed. I couldn't imagine having to get to 90 and then double that. So good for you guys, man. Honestly.
That's too funny. But yeah, it's so, I love talking to people of different instances because it is crazy. I mean, it's not crazy because we are both crazy. We do crazy things like running, you know what I mean? But your crazy to me is insane, and my crazy is insane to you. So it's so
Yeah.
funny just the difference. But we're both amazing runners, and that's all that matters. And I
Yeah.
truly wish you the best of luck this weekend. Um, I will have your social in the show notes so that way everyone can link up with you, can follow along. And with all hopes, if I can do this correctly, this podcast should go out soon so they can cheer for you for your race this weekend.
Oh, for sure. Thank you. Yeah. And if anyone has my socials and needs to talk, message me. I'm always down. So, yeah, thank you for having me. This was awesome. It was great to connect with someone of a different distance. A lot of the ones I've done have been people of the same. So, this was very insightful for me as well. And I'm glad to hopefully educate people on a little bit of what I do.
For sure. You definitely have educated me. And so there's a plus. And there's going to be tons of other people educated. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Of course. Thank you for having me.